When the world leaves you broken, there comes a silence so heavy, so suffocating, that even your own heartbeat feels like it's mocking you. You sit there, staring into the void, asking yourself questions you don't have answers to. Why me? Why now? How did it all fall apart? You replay every choice, every moment, every sacrifice, and somehow it feels like none of it mattered. The people you trusted walked away. The dreams you held so tightly slipped through your fingers. The laughter, the warmth, the hope, gone, leaving behind nothing but shadows. And it's in that very moment, when the world leaves you in pieces, that the real battle begins. Because brokenness, it isn't the end. It's the fire where men are forged. I want you to think back to a time when life shattered you. Maybe it was the betrayal of someone you thought would never leave. Maybe it was the failure of a dream you poured your soul into. Maybe it was the night you realized no one was coming to save you. That night when the silence around you was louder than 1,000 voices. That night when tears burned your eyes, but you refused to let anyone see them. That night when you swore to yourself, I can't take this anymore. But here's the truth. That night wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a war inside you. The world doesn't care if you fall. The world doesn't care if you're broken. Life will hit you, strip you, and leave you bleeding on the ground. And it won't apologize for it. But here's what most men don't understand. When the world leaves you broken, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to despair, bitterness, self-destruction. The other leads to transformation, strength, and rebirth. Which path you choose, that's what defines you. That's what writes your story. Every man who has ever built a legacy, every man who has ever risen to greatness, has stood where you're standing, on the edge of nothing, with no one clapping for them, with no light in sight. And it was there, in that pit, in that silence, in that brokenness, that they made the choice to rise. Let me tell you something raw and real: life isn't fair. The world doesn't hand out justice. You can be good, you can be kind, you can give your all, and still end up crushed. But the question is not, why did this happen to me? The real question is, what will I do now that it has? Because brokenness is not permanent, unless you let it be. Think of a seed. It has to be buried in darkness, crushed under the weight of the soil before it breaks open. If the seed refuses to break, it will never grow. But the moment it shatters, life begins. And so it is with you. Men don't rise in comfort. Men don't rise when everything is easy, when people praise them, when the world claps for their success. Men rise when they are broken, when they are left with nothing but their breath, their will, and the fire in their chest that whispers, I will not die here. And I know right now, some of you listening are standing in that fire. You feel the weight of the world pressing down on your chest. You wake up every morning with dread, wondering how you'll make it through the day. You feel like nobody understands the war you're fighting. But I'm telling you this. The very place you're standing, the very pain you're carrying, is the soil of your rebirth. The world will leave you broken, because that's how it tests you. Life doesn't ask politely, are you ready to grow? It throws you into storms, strips away your illusions, and forces you to see who you really are when everything is gone. And in that moment, you either collapse or you rise. But rising doesn't happen in a single instant. It begins with one small decision, one whisper in the darkness, one refusal to stay down. Rising begins when you stop asking the world for mercy and start demanding strength from yourself. You see, most men spend their lives running from pain. They numb themselves with distractions, drown themselves in noise, avoid silence because silence forces them to face the truth. But those who dare to sit with the pain, those who stare into the mirror of their brokenness, discover something powerful. Pain doesn't just destroy, it rebuilds. Your broken dreams, they are not your end. They are the ashes from which you will rise. Every betrayal taught you who was real. Every failure carved out the man you're meant to be. Every loss stripped away what was weak, leaving only what was unbreakable. So when the world leaves you broken, you have two choices: stay shattered or become unstoppable. And I'll tell you why men who rise from brokenness can't be stopped. Because they've already lost it all. They've already tasted failure, rejection, humiliation. They've already walked through hell. And when a man survives hell, there is nothing left on earth that can scare him. But before you get there, before you rise, you must endure the silence. That unbearable silence when no one believes in you. That silence when the phone doesn't ring. That silence when the world looks away. And it's in that silence where you discover something extraordinary. Your own voice. The voice that says, I will not break again. I will not give up here. I will rise. Maybe right now you're carrying the weight of dreams that died. Maybe you've convinced yourself it's too late. But listen to me. Brokenness is not the enemy. Brokenness is the birthplace of destiny. The man who rises from the ashes is never the same man who fell into the fire. This is only the beginning, because the rise starts when you take the broken pieces in your hands and decide to build again. Not the same dream, not the same life, but something stronger, something unshakable, something the world can never take from you again. And that's what part 2 will uncover. How you take that brokenness, that silence, that darkness, and turn it into the very foundation of your rise. There comes a moment, right after the storm, when silence feels louder than any scream. It's that heavy, suffocating silence where you're left alone with your thoughts, your failures, your brokenness. And in that silence, you face a choice. Will you let it crush you, or will you learn to build from it? Because here's the truth, no one is coming to save you. No one is going to pick up the pieces of your shattered life and arrange them neatly for you. That responsibility, as cruel as it may feel, is yours alone. This is where the real war begins. Not with the world, not with your enemies, not with the people who left you. This war is with yourself. It's the battle between the version of you that wants to stay broken and the version of you that knows you cannot stay on the ground forever. The first mindset shift comes when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what can I do with what happened to me? Because why keeps you stuck in blame. It locks you in the past, spinning stories about betrayal, about failure, about unfairness. But what can I do shifts you into movement. It forces you to see pain as raw material, not just punishment. You begin to realize that even brokenness has weight, and you can use that weight to build strength if you choose to. Think about a man who has been betrayed, abandoned, stripped of everything. At first, he collapses. But then, something inside him changes. He stops seeing his pain as evidence that life hates him. He begins to see it as the evidence that he is still alive, that he still has something worth fighting for. That's the seed of transformation, the moment where despair gives way to defiance. The second mindset shift is brutal honesty. You cannot rise while lying to yourself. You cannot rebuild if you are still telling yourself stories to soothe your ego. Brokenness strips away illusions, and that is its gift. When you are broken, you finally see yourself clearly, not the mask, not the image, not the performance, just you. And maybe that truth hurts. Maybe it exposes your weaknesses, your bad choices, your flaws. But if you can face yourself without turning away, you now have the foundation for real strength. Most men run from themselves. They bury themselves in distractions, work, women, substances, noise, anything to avoid sitting with their own soul. But the man who rises after being broken learns to sit in the fire of his own reality. He learns to say, yes, I failed. Yes, I was weak. Yes, I let life hit me harder than I was ready for. But I am still here. And if I am still here, then I can still rise. Then comes the third mindset shift, rebuilding not as who you were, but as someone new. Brokenness destroys your old self, and that's not always a curse. Sometimes it's the only way to strip away the parts of you that were never strong enough to carry you forward. You can't go back. You're not meant to. The man who tries to rebuild into who he was before the fall will break again. But the man who uses his pain as fuel to forge a new version of himself becomes unbreakable. So how do you actually rebuild? Step 1, discipline. Nothing grows in chaos. When you're broken, everything feels scattered. Your thoughts, your habits, your emotions, everything is shattered into pieces. Discipline is what gathers those pieces. Start small. Wake up early. Move your body. Keep your word to yourself. It sounds simple, but discipline is the structure that allows your soul to heal. Without discipline, pain turns into destruction. With discipline, pain turns into power. Step 2, purpose. Pain without purpose is just suffering. pain with purpose is transformation. You have to find something worth rising for. It could be your future, your family, your mission, your own self-respect. But without a why, you will collapse again. Purpose is what makes a man unstoppable, because when he knows what he's fighting for, no wound, no betrayal, no loss can permanently bury him. Step 3: silence and solitude. The world wants to drown you in noise, but healing requires quiet. You need time away from the constant distraction to hear yourself again, to rebuild your spirit. Brokenness creates a void, and most men rush to fill it with temporary pleasures, but the man who can sit in the void long enough learns to build something eternal inside it. Step 4: cut dead weight. Some people are tied to your old self, the weak, broken version of you. They may not want you to rise, because your strength exposes their weakness. If you cling to them, you will sink again. When you are rebuilding, you must be ruthless about who you let near you. Protect your energy like it is gold, because it is. Step 5: patience. Rebuilding takes time. The pain made you desperate to be whole again, but desperation often leads to shortcuts, and shortcuts lead back to weakness. The man who rises does so one day at a time. He stacks victories. He builds stone upon stone until his foundation is solid. He doesn't demand the world recognize him yet. He doesn't need applause. He needs only to keep moving forward, silently, relentlessly. And then something strange happens. One day, the man who was once broken looks in the mirror and doesn't even recognize himself. Not because he has scars, but because the man he has become is unshakable. His eyes carry weight. His presence carries force. His silence commands respect. He no longer begs the world to go easy on him. He no longer fears the storm, because he is the storm. This is the paradox of brokenness. It feels like the end, but it's actually the beginning. It feels like death, but it's the birth of a stronger self. The world may have left you shattered, but rising is your choice. And when you rise, you carry a power that no one who has lived comfortably will ever understand, because the man who has been broken and rebuilt himself is a man who knows pain can't kill him. He has already been to the edge. He has already tasted despair, and yet, he stands. That is why you rise. That is how you rise. And now we reach the truth most men run from. Brokenness is not the enemy. Brokenness is the invitation. It is the doorway through which you either crawl back into darkness or step into the kind of light that burns away everything false about you. When the world leaves you in ruins, you have two choices: stay down and let those ruins bury you, or rise and use those ruins as bricks to build a new fortress within yourself. Understand this clearly. No man is remembered for how comfortable his life was. No man becomes legendary because everything went smoothly. The men who etch their names into history, the men who inspire generations, they are the ones who were crushed, beaten, betrayed, abandoned, and still refused to stay broken. They are the ones who used pain as fuel, who used loneliness as fire, who used every scar as proof that they were chosen for something greater. You see, the day the world leaves you broken is not the day your story ends. It's the day your true story begins. Because it's in that moment, when everyone has left, when no one believes in you, when the weight feels unbearable, that you discover who you really are. Are you the man who dies on the ground, forgotten, swallowed by his own excuses? Or are you the man who rises from his ashes and makes the world regret ever doubting him? Every great man you admire faced this same choice. The difference wasn't in the pain. They felt pain just like you. The difference wasn't in the betrayal. They were betrayed just like you. The difference was in their decision. They decided that no matter how broken they felt, they would not remain that way. They would rise, piece by piece, day by day, until the world could no longer ignore the fire burning inside them. And that is the final truth you must hold on to. Life does not reward the man who never breaks. It rewards the man who breaks, and then rebuilds himself into someone unstoppable. So when you feel broken, do not curse it. Do not waste it. Take that pain and let it carve you into a weapon. Let it sharpen your mind, harden your will, and set your soul ablaze. Let it teach you what comfort never could. Let it make you dangerous to your weakness, unshakable in your purpose, and untouchable by the storms that once terrified you. Because the day you rise from your brokenness is the day the world changes. Not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you became unbreakable. And one day, when people look at you and wonder how you became so strong, you'll smile. You remember the nights you almost gave up, the days you carried wounds no one could see, and you'll know the truth. It wasn't in spite of being broken that you rose. It was because of it. And that is the final lesson. Brokenness is not your grave, it's your rebirth. The world may leave you shattered, but it is in those shattered pieces that the strongest version of you is born. Rise. Rise so high that the very people who once stepped over you now look up in awe, knowing they could never break you again. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your legend.